Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of creating an island in Blender. And today we're just going to be continuing what we left off with. And we've got a lot to cover, so we're going to be creating some trees, some reeds, and some plants and rocks. Hopefully we'll get to most of that. And we'll be using some particle systems to scatter them across the island. And yeah, so a lot of fun stuff. So let's jump right in. So first what I'm going to start with is making a bunch of vertex groups. So basically what vertex groups are, they're where you want to map out your objects. So let's say you wanted to map out some trees. Once you create a particle system, they're going to be scattered all across the island and you want them in a specific part. So you can kind of paint where you want them to be. So that's what we're going to be doing first. So let's start with going over here to your vertex groups and add a new one and double click on it and call it trees. Add another one, call it rocks, and add two more, and one will be called, I don't know, cactus / bush thing I just used in the scene. And last one would be reeds. So I don't know if you generally find reeds on an ocean island, but I found that it looked pretty good, so we're just gonna stay with that. And so let's click on our trees vertex group and hit Control Tab, or you can come down here and select weight paint. And so now we're just basically gonna paint where you want your trees to be. So I'm gonna be using the add, and the strength and stuff I'll keep minimal. So you're just going to kind of paint right along up here, and right here is where the trees are going to be mapped on. So don't put them too close to the shore. Probably wouldn't want that. And just kind of map them wherever you think would be best. Red and basically blue is, dark blue is nothing, light blue is the next highest, and green and yellow and red. So red right there. Might want to be careful because you'll have a pretty big clump of trees there. But just scatter them enough so that it'll definitely make your island have a fair amount of trees. I don't know if I'd put it, it's almost like an overhang right there, so I'll keep the trees minimal right there. And you also want to be aware of sometimes if you like overshoot, you can see sometimes how it comes straight out here, and you don't ever want that. Trees will start appearing out in the water. So you can go to your subtract and you can just take that away, and that looks all good now. So I think that's what all I'm going to use for trees. It's not a long process. You can just do it real fast. But so that's our trees vertex group. Let's click on our rocks. And for the rocks, I mainly want to have halfway in the water and halfway up. So I'll kind of paint kind of halfway in, and you'll see it is painting right down there. And I do want them on the shore, but I mostly want them just to be mapped under, well, in the water. I think it gives a good effect like that. Maybe some more on that beach shore right there. And maybe put a couple more out here. And we can always adjust it later when we see the rocks with the particle system. So I think that's where I'm going to put all my rocks, and I'll select our cactus / bush. And these I kind of tend to put halfway up on the island. I like even on that overhang, I think it'd look pretty good right there. At least right underneath it. And you can kind of intermix them. It really doesn't matter where you put them. They can kind of be halfway into the water too. I generally keep them a little bit higher up. Save the reeds, go down near the rocks. And, just kind of random spots. Oops, a little bit far there. So there we go. Just randomly paint. And I think now let's just select our reeds. And this I'm going to have mostly in the water. I don't think the reeds look too good up on the land. So you just kind of paint around here. And in this little inlet here, you could put some more in there. And just kind of come around the outside here. Maybe some more on that little beach again. And so I think that's all I'm going to do for the reeds. It looks like they'll be mapped out on there perfectly. And okay, so we've got our vertex groups. Now let's start making our objects for the particle system. So let's go down here to our second layer and enable the add tree, well, curve add tree. And if you don't have this enabled, just go to user preferences and add-ons, just type in sapling and enable that. So right here, this is the default. I'm going to change this tree instead of quaking aspen to black to phyllo. And I'm going to make the handling, instead of vector, I'm going to make it auto. It just basically makes the branches a bit more smooth. And I'm going to hit bevel and go to branch splitting, hit 3 levels. And that is quite a few branches, so I am going to turn down here under branches, make it from 25 to, let's say, 15. And just so we can have a couple more trees. And let's make the base size 0.35. How about we make it 0.45? There we go. And let's go to leaves now and show leaves. And we're going to make them pretty big, so let's make it 1.5. The scale might be a bit big. Let's just try 1.25. And then make the Y scaling 0.25. And I guess let's make the scale 1.5. And I think that's all we'll have to do for our tree. Since it is going to be far away, it won't really matter a whole lot. So let's select our leaves and add a new material, call it leaves. And I found that solid green on a render doesn't look that great. It's good if it's light and kind of yellowish too. I found it just makes a good kind of render. If you can see in the sample image here, it's not perfectly green. So you can turn the intensity for the specular all the way down, and now select the branches or trunk. And in the image here, I did apply a texture to the trunk, but I'm not going to do that this time because it was really just it didn't need to be there. So I'll just make it a dark brown, turn the intensity all the way down. And right now, if I'm going to make this into a mesh instead of a curve. So you can see curves. So the way we do that is hit Alt-C and mesh from curve meta surf text. So do that same thing with the leaves, and then they're both meshes. So select the leaves and then the branches, hit Control J, and it's one mesh. So now let's select this tree and just call it tree. I guess it already is called tree. And let's go over here to layer 1. So let's go over here to particle systems and add a new one and call this one trees, and settings trees and trees, and the type set to hair, and turn on advanced and random. Rotation we will worry about in just a second. Under render, change it from path to object and make the object the tree. Now, it might take a second. So you can see it's a pretty jumbled mess. So first of all, let's turn the number down to 50 for now. And let's go to rotation. And for some reason, I don't know why it does it, but it always turns the objects 90 degrees, or at least approximately like that. And I'm not sure why it does that. So you have to go to rotation and under initial orientation, make it global Y. So then now you can see they're standing straight up. And they're in the water, so let's apply our vertex group. So trees vertex group, and now you can see they're right where I mapped them out. And now let's make some random size. So come on under here, under physics, and random size, like, I don't know, 0.75. And the size, let's make 0.035. And I think that's pretty good for the trees. I am going to add, let's say 120 for all the trees. And let's just turn the random size all the way up. And I think that's all I'm going to do for the trees. And now we're just going to add our rocks. So let's come over here to layer 3 and let's just create some rocks. So mesh, add a sphere. And I'm going to subdivide it smooth once more. hit smooth shading. And then I'm going to come over here to our modifiers tab and add a displacement modifier. I'm going to call this one rock. And come over here to the textures tab and make the type to clouds. And make the size up to 1. And you can see how it's deforming that rock pretty well. So let's come back here, apply the displacement modifier. And basically we're going to make 4 of these rocks, just so we can make a group. So just make a random, with each rock, just kind of randomize it, do whatever you can to it, go into edit mode, and just, use anything you can to just kind of distort it, and just make it look different. And that's one rock, make one bigger or smaller, or whatever you want to do. And bring that one over here. Same with it. Here we go. So one more rock, make this one smaller than all the others. And just a little randomness. Okay, so there we go. Let's select all these and hit Control G and name this group rocks. And now, okay, so now we need to add a material to it. So let's add a new material just to one of the rocks, and we'll call it rocks. And I'm not going to apply a texture to this one either. And just kind of darken that. I found that you don't want it too dark, otherwise it just looks kind of bad on the white sand. So just watch that. And so just choose that one for all of the rocks. And now let's go back into our main scene, and let's hide the trees for now. Right there. And let's create another particle system. Call this one rocks. I'm running out of time here, so I think we're only going to get to the rocks and trees this time. But in the next tutorial, I think we can get through the rest of it. Call this one rocks. And the type set to hair, and under render, instead of path, pick group and get our rocks group. So as you can see, they're all there. And now let's pick our vertex group, rocks. And now let's go to number, and for now let's just make it 250. And let's make turn on advanced and random. And under rotation, turn that on. And make it global Y again. And now just kind of randomize it. Whatever you want to do just to make it look random, completely random. And random size, turn that up. And the size, let's make 0.075. And we can always mess with that later. But it's looking pretty good. I'm going to make the number 350. And I think I'm just going to leave the rocks right there for now. So I think that's going to be all for part 2 for right now. I'm kind of running out of time. So I will see you in part 3, and we'll probably finish up the particle systems, and in part 4 we'll be doing some texture painting and just some extra touches that make it look a lot better. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one. Thanks.